everybody, it's Lit Soc. It's the first week back at school, so previously we've been on Teams, or failing to be on Teams, and now we're back, and Mr Humphreys and I will be doing this for the next couple of weeks, and then hopefully we'll be out in the quad for the summer.
Yes.
Which would be nice, wouldn't it? The weather improves.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, it would be amazing to be together again.
Yes.
Anyway. Lots been happening. Last week was World Book Day, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
And although we had a few, I had a couple of year sevens. I don't know if you.
There was a few. There was we did quite a good turnout.
Yeah.
We had some excellent costumes actually. It was a year 10 who dressed up as King Arthur.
Oh really?
That was outstanding.
Wow!
I tweeted a picture of it, and so that was fantastic. We had a good Mr. Twit. Mm-hmm. We had another one from another Roald Dahl cast, I can't remember. But yeah, there was, all things considered, there was some really good efforts.
Yeah, we had Emily, who was in Lola Holmes, and Sia from Cold Tom, from Evie.
Yes, I knew, that's right.
Yes.
I knew there was a Cold Tom.
Yeah.
And so that was good. And of course we had the quiz, and that's the first time we'd done a sort of like direct house quiz in form time, and that's made a difference to the house points.
Oh, right.
Overall, yeah, because three's a one, and they leapt from 5th to 2nd place as a result of that. And, Fontaine, I think, was 2nd, and they were on top anyway, and they've consolidated their grips. So, important to join and get in World Book Day fun for that
definitely.
Reason. And, of course, we had the author visit.
Yes, she was excellent. Really good.
She's talking about Sea Bean.
She's talking about Sea Bean and how it inspired the actual Sea Bean. Sarah Holt, the Sea Bean inspired her, and how she used the Legend of Atlantis as well. She's obviously very concerned about climate change and what's going to happen, or what is happening, more to the point. So that made me think. Because she was talking about previous climate change and extinction events, and I was thinking about what it would be like to come out of, or to run away from the Ice Age, because I was staying with Mrs Foster in Sussex, and I was looking at the shape of the downs, and they are just extraordinary if you're almost at the beneath them. They're Sussex's equivalent of mountains, and they are pretty high, and it's all glacial. So I was thinking about that as well. So yeah, that was really inspiring. Hear about all the different things she's done and what's contributed to her text.
Yes, you were saying she's talking about some other influences as well.
Yeah,
and she talked about Cli-Fi.
Cli-Fi, yes, which is not something I had been aware of at all. Although we've talked about this on. Certainly Marcus Sedgwick is somebody who's very contributed a lot to that genre.
That was his first novel, Floodland.
Yes.
So
yeah, absolutely.
Yes. So yeah, we did mark World Book Day as well as we could. And just to finish one more thing about World Book Day, we
talk about the books.
Yes, I'll talk about the books, because obviously this year not able to hand out the tokens in person, but you all got sent in your letter home, the digital version, because that's what they did this year. And so they're on the website. I don't know whether you can see this, but the 4 ones aimed at secondary school students. We've got a good variety. We've got The River Whale by Sita Brahmachari. Now, she's the lady who did Jasmine Skies, which is, about the immigrant experience from sort of like a Monica Ali, if you like.
Oh, yeah.
For younger generation.
This generation.
Yeah, exactly. And then we've got Catherine Rundell, of course. We've sang her praises many times on Litsoc. And it's called Sky Steppers, which is slightly similar to Rooftoppers. Looking at the cover image, it looks like a picture of someone jumping atop church towers there. Westminster Cathedral, Westminster Abbey, maybe. So that'll be an interesting one. Of course, she's a...
Maybe it's about free running.
Maybe. She's excellent at weaving magical stories and sense of wonder in her prose, and just beautiful stories. So I'm sure that'd be a good one. And then for slightly older readers, we've got Killjoy by Holly Jackson. Now, Holly Jackson her debut novel made waves. It was called Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and it was about a girl who did an EPQ project on a local murder case. And she clearly thoroughly researched what EPQ entails. I can confirm that as an EPQ supervisor. And of course, she stumbles across murders, and it becomes a bit too much beyond a project. So Killjoy, this one is called, so that suggests there's going to be murder afoot in that one too. And then last but not least, we've got a little skullduggery pleasant book called Apocalypse Kings.
Another one.
Yes. Of course, this is the World Book Day one, but yeah, a little standalone novella. And of course, you may remember Year 7 is one I mentioned when we did the Year 7 talk. So, yeah, there's quite a few good ones to spend your £1 on. And of course, you can use it to get £1 off a book or an audiobook as well. So, I think they've extended the deadline that you can use it
Yes,
to
I think they have, yeah.
the 28th of March. Because obviously, I think we originally would have expired today, possibly. But anyway, it's all on the website. They've extended the deadline, so yeah, make use of it.
Yeah,
Make
keep
use of
reading.
it and keep reading.
Keep reading.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yes.
So, Sally, what would you like to talk about?
Well, let's have a quick talk about what we've been reading. I've just realised that one of the things I read is on the shelf still, so I'm going to get that.
Shall I make a start then?
Yes, you make a start.
Right, I will stay with the young adult theme, seeing as we were just talking about World Book Day, and I'll talk about 2 YA books I've read recently. So I have read, first of all, I've read Sofa Surfer by Malcolm Duffy. Now, Malcolm Duffy, of course, is parent of the school, just like Sarah Holding, and his debut novel came out a few years ago called Me Mum, Me Dad and Me, which was about domestic abuse. Now, this one, Sofa Surfer, as you might have guessed from the title, is about homelessness. And it's about a boy who moves from London, and he moves up north, and he doesn't like it because he's gone from the exciting big city to a rural northern area, and he hasn't got any friends, and he's very miserable and unhappy. But then he meets an older girl called Spider, who's like a really tall, skinny girl, who's, I think she's 19, if I remember correctly. And he becomes friendly with her, and for some reason she wants him to teach her how to swim. So he does. And at the same time, you meet another girl called Michelle, who he sort of falls a bit in love with. But there's something about her that isn't, she's like the cool girl at school, And he's like, oh, I'm not so sure, actually. And then he finds out that Spider is homeless.
Oh, right, okay.
And he resolves to help her out. She does things like, because this is set in Yorkshire, so she like sleeps rough on the Yorkshire moors. So that's basically the premise. And just like Me Mum, Me Dad, Me, it's very obviously heavy issues, but it's actually done with a light touch. It's really good humour throughout, and it's just very real and very, the story. It's very authentic. The narrative voice is very authentic. I remember when he came here to talk to us, how he talked about getting inside a teenage boy's head. You can tell he's done that again. Yeah. And the lens through which teenagers view the world is done very, very convincingly. So that's a good one. And of course, youth homelessness in general. But youth homelessness is a big issue. Yeah, it's a really big issue. And and it does, spoilers, it does have an uplifting ending, I'm happy to say, just like Me Mum, Me Dad, Me does. Not necessarily all roses, but certainly overall uplifting. So that's Sofa Surfer. And the other YA book I read recently was Concrete Rose by Angie Thomas. Hopefully many of you will have read or at least seen the movie of The Hate You Give. And this is the prequel, and it focuses on Star, who is the main character of The Hate You Give, her father. What was his name again? It was Maverick. That's it. That's right. Maverick Carter, and it's about how he. Now you may remember, those who've read it, and spoilers for those of you who haven't. He spent some time in jail. Did Maverick, but not for something he did. He did it. Oh, that's right. Yes, he did it to help someone out. Yes. Yeah, because obviously this is exactly. Now he used to be part of a gang called the Lords. Sorry, my memory's a bit. King Lords. King Lords, and essentially he's born into this lifestyle. He can't get out of it, but then he becomes a dad with a girl he doesn't really like, and of course you remember Star has an older brother, so it's about him first of all. But the girl he really loves is called Lisa, and Star she comes on later with the girl that he actually loves. But anyway, the story is about. It's not just about how they came to be. It's about how he got out of the gang lifestyle, and of course how he ended up in jail for something he didn't do and why he did it. Yeah. So it's very, very interesting read, and of course, just like The Hate You Give, obviously this is not. That was more Black Lives Matter. So is this to a degree, but it's more about gang culture and the self-inflicted wounds and why are they doing this to themselves. Yes. And she's Angie Thomas got a very good ear for the dialects, the dialogue. Obviously, it's the world she came from. So again, just like Malcolm Duffy, very authentic voice. And like The Hate You Give, does have ultimately message of hope in the end, but it is pretty hard going in places and is pretty rough. And this is the world of gangs, and so there are things like shootings and whatnot that do happen. But yeah, and obviously he makes mistakes. Maverick does make mistakes, and sometimes when you go, "Oh, what are you doing, you idiot? What are you doing, boy?" But it's a very very riveting read, and so if you like The Hate You Give, this is a must read. Highly recommended. So there you go. So that's the YA I read. So Miss Hadley.
This is one I read. I haven't done very much reading since Christmas, but I read this sort of over the Christmas holidays, called 12 Nights by Andrew Zerker. Now, Andrew Zerker, it turns out, is he is at Cambridge. He's Director of Studies in English at Queen's College, or at least he was when this was published. And this is his first novel, and I remember being absolutely fascinated by his use of language. He uses the most extraordinary similes, metaphors, very rooted in the natural world. And since this is mostly set at the beginning in Cambridge, it really took my interest, and I thought, I suspect that he's read a lot, and certainly probably knows Robert Macfarlane, which links with The Lost Spells. Now, this is a sort of quest, journey, alternative world, has quite a lot in common with his Dark Materials, but from the Cambridge point of view, perhaps. But it's really interesting. It's not entirely successful in my view, but nonetheless it's it's well worth reading. It could have done with cutting a bit.
Okay.
Bit of editing in my view.
Puffin as well. Okay, then.
Yeah.
An army of editors would be.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's definitely worth looking if you like his Dark Materials or any of the sort of even Journey to the River Sea, things like that. It's for you because it's well worth it. It's her father was a researcher. He disappears, and her mother is a craftsperson, I think, a weaver. So part one is called Warp, part two is called Weft. So the Warp and the Weft. But I mean also a lot of Neil Gaiman as well, who of course I like, and you like too.
Yeah. Well,
so
a lot of my favourites here, certainly.
Yeah, I thought it might be to do with
Shakespeare.
Well, possibly, but
That's what I was thinking.
yes. But in fact, it's and it does take go over 12 nights, but not so much about the 12 Nights of Christmas. Anyway, there's a cruel enemy with a grip over this delicate world who kidnaps Kay sisters to make his reign complete. Yeah, and the villains are truly sort of villainous. Yeah, absolutely. And although I haven't read these, a lot of the Year 7s have been reading Murder Most Unladylike, and I picked this one off the Jolly Foul Play, and it's really interesting because during lessons when people are reading them, the certainly Robin Stevens' vocabulary, she doesn't spare them. Lots of new words from the period are there. Definitely
that's a good thing.
well worth checking out if you hadn't.
Happily, of course, many have. And
yes, absolutely.
They are very enjoyable, and they are sort of. Sometimes they do feel a little tongue in cheek.
Oh yes.
And it's all about the dynamic between Wong and Wells, Hazel and Daisy.
Yes. Yeah.
I wouldn't go so far. It's not necessarily Poirot and Hastings or anything like that, but it's a good double act.
Yeah.
They sort of riff off each other very well.
Yes.
So Jolly Foul Play. Is that the third?
This is the one. I think this is the fourth.
The fourth. Of course, she finished the series. What was it? was it last year now she did the last one, and she's done another novel called The Guggenheim Mystery, which I've not read, and that's a standalone. Not sure what she's got lined up next. Presumably at some point, because she's been churning these out pretty quickly. So presumably, you won't be surprised if her next book is out at some point this year.
Yeah. Jolly Foul Play, being an account of the case of the murder of Elizabeth Hurst, an investigation by the Wells and Wong Detective Society, written by Hazel Wong, Detective Society Vice President and Secretary, aged 14, begun Wednesday, 6th November 1935. Oh, I love the map. That's brilliant, isn't it?
They always have those. Because obviously not all on the set of the school. But the ones that aren't set at the school, there was one set on a train, for example, Orient Express, and I think did they have a layout of the train? I think they might have done. So yeah, definitely a good thing. Definitely a good.
Do you know I have not been on a train for something like 4 months, 5 months, maybe even more.
Same. Certainly not this year.
No, not this year. No.
I honestly can't remember the last time I was on one. Again, Kingston has been my universe. But
I've been lucky. I've been in Sussex, so it's been good.
Easter will start to escape to other places.
Okay, so that's what we've been reading. You want to talk about the Women's Prize? The Women's Prize long list is out.
Indeed it is.
Full of joys and things to check out.
Yeah, so we have... It's a long list. There's 16 on there. So I'll just read them all out. So we've got Because of You by Dawn French. And of course they're all fiction. So is this her debut?
No, it's about her third, I think, now. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can see I'm a big fan of Dawn French's novels. Burnt Sugar, which was of course Booker shortlisted and is one that you may remember me talking about, by Annie Doshi. Consent by Annabelle Lyon. Detransition Baby. That's an interesting title. There's a comma there, by the way. Detransition Baby.
Oh, okay.
By Tori Peters.
Yeah.
That's transgenderism, possibly.
Possibly.
Exciting Times by Naisha Dolan. How the One-Armed Sister Sweeps Her House. That's a brilliant title. By Cherie Jones. Luster by Raven Leilani. No One Is Talking About This by Patricia Lockwood. Nothing But Blue Sky by Kathleen McMahon. Piranesi. Susanna Clarke.
Which is brilliant.
Small Pleasures by Claire Chambers. Summer by Ali Smith. The Golden Rule by Amanda Craig. The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. Transcendent Kingdom by Ya Gayassi. Now, Ya Gayassi is, she did Homecoming.
Oh, yes.
And Unsettled Ground by Claire Fuller. So obviously a lot of, not necessarily debut, but not
Amanda Craig, well established, but she's great, Amanda Craig, because she's written novels based on other texts, and they work really well. I can't remember what the Golden Rule's about, but
they've got links to all of them.
Yeah.
Here. So, intelligent, bookish, and hardworking, Hannah is part of a generation that grew up in hope and has tried to escape life in Cornwall's ugliest coastal town through a university degree, professional career, and a marriage to the privileged Jake. However, her life has gone disastrously wrong. Jake has left her for Eve, and reduced to penuries, she is desperate enough to agree to murder... What?
Oh.
The brutal husband of Ginny.
Oh.
Not Mrs. Foster. The rich woman she meets in the first-class carriage of the London Penzance train.
Right, okay. Strangers on a train, then.
In return for having Jake killed. However, when Hannah turns up at the remote Cornish house where Ginny's husband is living, intending to keep her promise, she meets a filthy, drunken, despairing man living in a house whose misery tells a very different story. Yeah, that was an unexpected direction. Sounds interesting. Quite high concept. Strangers on a train, like you said. So, what else has she done?
Oh, I can't remember, but the one I've read was a sort of reworking of Midsummer Night's Dream, and that worked really well. I think it was set in a holiday in holiday in Italy, maybe. Sort of mayhem and sort of, all sorts of things happening.
I'm going to have a quick look at Transcendent Kingdom. I just ordered that one, so hopefully it'll arrive next week with a bit of luck. So, as a child, Gifty would ask her parents to tell a story of their journey from Ghana to Alabama. Alabama? That's the state you go to? Seeking escape in myths of heroism and romance. When her father and brother succumb to the hard reality of immigrant life in the American South, their family of four becomes two, and the life Gifty Juno slips away. Years later, desperate to understand the opioid addiction that destroyed her brother's life, she turns to science for answers. When her mother comes to stay, Gifty soon learns that the roots of their tangled traumas reach farther than she ever thought. Tracing her family story through continents and generations will take her deep into the dark heart of modern America. Interesting.
This isn't the No, it's not.
It is. It does actually remind me a little of one of the Booker shorts.
Yeah, that's right.
The university one.
Yes.
I can't remember. It was just called. It had a simple one-word title. About the science. He was working in a lab, wasn't he?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Can't remember what it's called. But it's also a little. I don't want to say colour purple, because the colour purple is she her cousin Nettie goes back to does missionary work in Africa, right? And I'm just wondering, obviously, because we've got Ghana to Alabama. Now, Alabama, for those of you not familiar with 1950s Deep South America, it's basically the worst state to be an African American in.
It's where To Kill a Mockingbird is set.
Yes. So Homegoing was the other one she did, and that was, I think, might have been shortlisted for a previous Women's Prize for Fiction, right? So I'm not surprised to see this on the long list. So there's that one. Do you want to briefly talk about Piranesi and... Oh yeah,
Piranesi, Susanna Clarke, who's... This was a long time in the writing, after Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, the great fairy tome. This is about a house, and Piranesi lives in the house, and Piranesi was an artist who drew fantastical architecture in the sort of 18th century, and she's building on that. But this is also about a world that's an alternative world that's under the sea, attacked by the sea, and a house that has a visitor that is very sinister. And the house is actually called the Labyrinth, and Piranesi knows it well, but the other is laying siege to him. So there's a lot going on. And it's about knowledge and getting lost down rabbit holes of the internet, and alternative universes, and possibly even video games, I suppose, as well. So, for example, entry for the 8th day of the 8th month in the year the albatross came to the southwestern hall. So it's got lots of echoes of and allusions to other texts, which I love.
Yes, of course, and as do I, Neil Gaiman and all that. But it's even though it's a lot shorter than Jonathan Strange, Mr. Norrell, as with that one, it's like a Russian doll almost, right? So many layers.
Yes, well worth. The beauty of the house is immeasurable, its kindness infinite.
It's almost reminding me of, I don't know if you've seen this, but certainly Black Mirror.
Yes.
It's as soon as you mentioned video games, the end of the episode where the choose your own adventure style one. So even though it's clearly delving back into ancient mythology, it's got modern concerns at its heart as well.
So.
And it looks like a very...
People disappearing.
It's a very rewarding read. So, okay. Now, the one that I've read from the long list is, I won't talk about it for too long, is Burnt Sugar, Avni Doshi, which is set in India, and it's a very honest, unflinchingly honest exploration of a strained mother.
Oh, this is
daughter.
The mother who's dying, isn't it?
Yes.
Or who's getting dementia. And
that's right.
Yeah.
And she's forgetting, but daughter, it's told from the daughter's point of view. She can remember, and they have a very, very spiky relationship, and she resents it because everyone's going, oh no, you've got to be nice to your mother now. She can't remember, but your poor mother. She's like, but she's been horrible to me. And it's sort of like her influence extends into her own marriage, for instance. And it's very brutally, honestly done with beautiful prose. I haven't really thought about what the title's getting at with Burnt Sugar, because obviously sugar is sweet. If you burn it, then it
caramel.
Caramel, yeah. So a sort of faux for show kind of sweetness maybe. But as I think I mentioned before when I did talk about it before, the ending is what I was really impressed by. It's a really good read, but the ending it's not an explosive apocalyptic ending or anything like that. It's quite, in some ways it's dramatic, but it's also understated. Probably not making much sense here, but I was really impressed by it, and I thought, yeah, if it had gone on to win the Booker, I wouldn't have complained. But it didn't. It was Shelley Bain, of course, as we all know. Yeah. So yeah, I enjoyed it, and it'd be interesting because it was her debut, so it'd be interesting to see what she comes up with next. Definitely.
Yeah.
So you haven't read Summer, have you?
No, I haven't
read any
Summer.
of them. Sorry.
No.
But I've neither have I, but I have read Autumn and Winter, and so obviously it's a quartet. Now they're almost like a sort of State of the Nation.
State of the Nation from 2016 onwards.
Yes,
aren't they?
exactly. Yeah. Autumn, the first one, is very much a Brexit novel. Now, interestingly, that was what they said about the Costa winner from 2019, which is Jonathan Coe, the Rotters Club.
Yeah.
What was it called? I think there's actually a sequel, but you didn't have to have read the Rotters Club. It was a sequel to the Rotters Club.
It was a sequel to the Rotters Club.
And it is called, and I can't remember, I'm just looking on the shelf to see if I can see it. It is called Middle England. There you go. It's more or less directly behind you there. Middle England. And that was a Brexit novel as well. And it, not read it, but from what I understand is it brings some much needed temperance and moderation to the Brexit debate instead of this, entrenched, vitriolic debates that we're having at the moment and still are. But anyway, Autumn was a sort of more, not quite as obvious, but it sort of it really discussed the concerns around it, and it in a sort of, this is the tiring, exhausting impact it has on everyday life. There's a very poignant scene where a group of tourists are basically, subjected to abuse, but they're just on holiday here, and of course it's not just about Brexit. It's again, it kind of similar to Burnt Sugar actually. It's the mother-daughter dynamic is very much at the heart of it, as is the daughter-father dynamic. But that's all I'll say. Not least because it's been a while since I've read it, so my memory's a bit sketchy. But again, just like all Ali Smith,
really
very much worth checking out.
Yeah, she's a great writer.
Yeah,
she really is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And a lovely person. If when we went to see her in the South
yes,
Bank
indeed,
Centre,
yes,
things go by.
Yeah.
So there you go. Props to her. Now I'm just going to briefly mention this seems with talking about the Women's Prize for Fiction, and of course because it's International Women's Day.
International Women's Day. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So Laura Bates, Laura Bates, the Everyday Sexism Project.
Yes.
This is her latest one, and this is a book that for men should perhaps read. Well, not just men, women as well, but it's for men who hate women. And it's from incels to pick-up artists, the truth about extreme misogyny and how it affects us all. So this is her latest one, and basically she's done a lot of investigative journalism into these different groups of men who hate women, essentially in different ways. Very interesting
thing on Twitter this morning from Philippa Perry about the language of misogyny. Very passive.
Well,
passive against women, as if women have got, that it's nothing to do with, as if it's nothing to do with men at all.
Yeah,
it's all women's fault.
Yeah, yeah. That's certainly one approach. Because, and I'm trying to think which, because she's got all the different groups. I'm just thinking. So you got men who hate women, men who prey on women, men who avoid women, men who blame women. Maybe that'll be that one. Men who hound women, men who hurt women, men who exploit other men, men who are afraid of women, men who don't know they hate women, and last but not least, men who hate women. So, because there was something, Twitter, of course, is, well, we have mixed feelings about Twitter, don't we? It's certainly...
It's great, but it can be also hell.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, we all know that it's something that's occupying lots of headline space at the moment.
It is.
And that's what the Friday Reflection was about this morning. And there was a hashtag, because obviously there's a certain murder case, or disappearance case, which is awful. And of course, there was a hashtag trending, not all men, which, it's just a common thing of, it's not about us guys, men, as soon as you go, not all, please don't believe that all men are like, not all men are going to attack a woman who's walking alone at 9:30 at night. It's like, well, I'm sorry, but it's not about men. You're making it about you as soon as you go down that route. And the counter hashtag was not enough men, was it? Or too many? I can't remember. I think it was not enough men, too many men, as in too many men are not speaking out about this. Too many men, it might be a minority of men who would directly do this, but that's still too many, and too many men who agree that it's wrong but don't speak out about it. So that's what it should be about, and that's what this book is about. It's about, you know, how men can call out other men on it and just, you know, see like casual sexism going on and what we as men can do about it. So that's a very timely thing with International Women's Day being on Monday. You know, these things that are going on, and of course, you know, Meghan and that's Piers Morgan. Yes. So and there was an example there. What the weather guy? What's his name? Alex Barrett. There's an example of what a man can do to call him out on it.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, ultimately, yes, it's a shame that we're still in this position in 2021. But that's the reality of where we are. And you know, you could argue, and we've talked about this before, the fact that there's still a need for a women's prize for fiction. You know, why should there have to be a women's prize for fiction? You know, it should be considered on equal terms. Anyway, so that's Laura Bates. We have a few of her books. This is her latest, but yeah, she started with the Everyday Sexism Project, and it's something that, you know, everyone should be more aware of, essentially, as well as everyday racism. And, you know, because another thing that the Sussexes have been subjected to, and the I saw on Twitter. See, this is where Twitter can be useful. Someone did a mock-up of side-by-side articles where the Daily Express, the Daily Mail, describe the avocado, the bump, how they depict Kate, and then how they depict
Meghan. Absolutely,
the double standards of it all.
Totally double standards.
Anyway, that's my little soapbox piece for this Lit Soc. Did you want to add anything, Miss Huntley?
There's well, just really, mother invention, how good ideas get ignored in an economy built for men.
There's that gender bias book, isn't there?
Unwell Women, A Journey Through Myth and Medicine in a Man-Made World. An Extra Pair of Hands, that's Kate Moss. I think that's about her. Caring, Ageing and Everyday Acts of Love. Yeah, lots of new books by women. And just the language that is what Philippa Perry was writing, had tweeted this morning. I'm just trying to find it.
While you're finding that,
you
just when you mentioned about how things are skewed towards it, there was that book about how I forgot what it's called, about how the hidden bias in world,
design.
Yeah, is that what it was called?
It's not called that, but it's Caroline.
It's non-fiction.
No, it's non-fiction. We've got it.
I know. That's why I'm saying.
I was talking to my sixth form about it yesterday,
and it's called The Hidden. The subtitle is how the hidden.
Yeah, I've got a car. My little car.
Yeah.
So this is a VW Up. It's one of the smallest cars on the market. Not quite the smallest. I have to have size 9 feet in order to drive my car.
I remember you mentioning that.
I've had to really adapt. I don't need a lift or anything, but I really have to adapt my stance. I have to be literally on top of the steering wheel, which is a ridiculous way to be. And I'm not. I mean, all right, I'm quite small, but I'm not that small.
You're not that small.
It's mad.
It is. I'm gonna see if I can find
it. It's not on the list.
Well, I could go down. But I'm going to look at it. The access.
It was on the shelf for a little bit, wasn't it?
It was.
This is what Philippa Perry writes. We talk about how many girls in a school district were harassed last year, not about how many boys harassed girls. We talk about how many teenage girls got pregnant in the state of Vermont last year, rather than how many men and teenage boys got girls pregnant. And it's the passive voice, which takes men out of the. This is probably worth watching. Actually, Jackson Katz, his TED Talk, Violence Against Women. It's a men's issue. I think that's well worth looking for this weekend, definitely.
Yeah, because that's it, isn't it?
Yeah.
The police saying to women in Clapham, don't go out.
Don't go out.
And it's like, well,
so we're even more, now we're even more victims of our own, the night.
Exactly.
There's a vigil tomorrow evening on Clapham Common where people...
Yeah, exactly.
And other cities as well throughout Britain, so definitely worth.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just the... Anyway. Sorry, access is...
You enjoy?
I'll get there. I'll get there in the end. So, should we briefly mention Mermaid of Black Conch?
Yes, this came out. It was shortlisted for the Goldsmith Prize in 2020. Monica Roffey, and has had quite a lot of. Came out, yeah. And it's a mermaid story, but from the Caribbean. Not from Britain. April 1976, St Constance, a tiny Caribbean village on the island of Black Conch. A fisherman sings to himself in his pirogue, waiting for a catch, but attracts a sea dweller he doesn't expect. Akaya, a beautiful young woman cursed by jealous wives who live with the mermaid, has been swimming the Caribbean Sea for centuries, and she's entranced by this man David and his song. But her fascination is on her undoing. She hears his boat's engine again and follows it and finds herself at the mercy of American tourists landed on the island for the annual fishing competition. After a fearsome battle, she is pulled out of the sea and strung up on the dock as a trophy. It is David who rescues her and gently wins her trust, as slowly, painfully, she starts to transform into a woman again. But transformations are not always permanent, and jealousy, like love, can have the force of a hurricane and last much longer. This is another sort of version of the Selkie story from Mermaids as well. And this is published by People Press, which is a little People Tree Press, sorry, a new imprint.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
It's like when Garden of You and the Mists won the book, because obviously that was a small imprint as well. So
that's right.
That's nice.
Yeah, Mrs Davis has read it.
It's good. Bernardine Evaristo has got a quote on the front there, and I think Margaret Atwood also really rated it. So Mrs Davis didn't. You were saying?
Well, she liked it, but it wasn't particularly memorable, I think, for her. I read another mermaid book. Let me just see if I can find it.
While she's finding that, everybody, the book that we were alluding to just now is called Invisible Women. Exploring data bias in a world designed for men. You've all heard about the gender pay gap. Welcome to the gender data gap. Our world is largely built for and by men in a system that can ignore half the population. This book will tell you how and why this matters. I mean, you shouldn't know why it matters, really, to be honest, but there you go. In a new book shows us how we are systematically ignoring half the population, exposes the data gap, a gap in knowledge at the root of perpetual systemic discrimination against women, and that has created pervasive but invisible bias with profound effects on women's lives. And brings together case studies, stories, and new research. And government policy, medical research, technology, workplaces, urban planning, and the media. Not least the media. So yes, we have a copy of that in the library, so check it out.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, for International Women's Day we were talking about that yesterday. This is the one, The Mermaid Mrs Hancock, which is set in the 18th century. A sea captain brings home to his ship owner, he says, I've got a mermaid. And it's the story of... It's not really the story of what happens to the mermaid as such, but what happens to the people who come in contact with the mermaid. The world of 18th century London with its prostitutes and sort of louche world. And I really liked it. I think she's a really good voice, Imogen Hermsgau. She's very interesting about women's position. The mermaid you never see, you only hear.
Right.
It's just sad. It was shortlisted for the Women's Fiction Prize in 2018.
All mermaid stories are sad, such as the original Little Mermaid story.
Oh yeah, well.
Well, let's not end on that note, shall we?
No, definitely not.
Let's end on this note. The Lost Spells.
Yes, The Lost Spells. Lovely.
So, of course, it's the companion piece to the Lost Words.
And in fact, it's been a concert. Mrs Slaughter went to a concert at the Royal Albert Hall a couple of years ago now, and said it was a very beautiful evening. Yeah.
So yeah, this is its little sister piece essentially, and I mean, so just like the Lost Words, it's beautiful pictures of nature. So, and it intersperses it with some beautiful poems / prose poems / whatever. I don't know how to describe them, but. So, like, for example, moth, and then you've got all the pictures on the moths. This one soft word falls so far short of what the moth world means. Of moths in number, birthed by dark to flock round torch and lamp and porch, together thickening air to froth, then cloth, then weather. And you turn the page, more beautiful moths. Open up the soft words' wings, and out rush names and forms, a broth of colours. Cinnabar and scarlet tiger, frosted green and angle shade, bordered pearl and tamarisk plume, diamond back and clouded silver. Isn't this exquisite language?
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And then I will keep on reading. I mean, and then you got the spare different artistics. It's like this is one like walking through a sort of menagerie of. Oh, look at that! Yeah, so this is like a beautiful marriage of images and words, and just a reminder of what a wonderful world we live in, and all the natural treats. And as Miss Huntley was saying earlier, hopefully we get to go back outside for Litsoc post Easter as things open up and we have more freedom and we can go more places. Just a reminder of the beauty we have in nature. Oh,
just one sad thing that happened this week. Norman Juster, who wrote The Phantom Toll Booth, a wonderful book. If you've never read it, I thoroughly recommend it. Milo. This is sort of, it's a bit like being in lockdown, really. He's not in lockdown, but there was once a boy named Milo who didn't know what to do with himself, not just sometimes, but always. When he was in school, he longed to be out. When he was out, he longed to be in. On the way, he thought about coming home, and coming home, he thought about going. Wherever he was, he wished he was somewhere else, and when he got there, he wondered why he'd bothered. Nothing really interested him, least of all the things that should have. It seems to me that almost everything is a waste of time, he remarked one day as he walked dejectedly home from school. Can't see the point in learning to solve useless problems, or subtracting turnips from turnips, or knowing where Ethiopia is, or how to spell February. And since no one is bothered to explain otherwise, he regards the process of seeking knowledge as the greatest waste of time of all. And these wonderful line illustrations. And Mr. Juster sadly died, but he left behind this wonderful book. And he says, like most of the good things that happened in my life, The Phantom Toll Booth was written when I was trying to avoid doing something else, something I was supposed to do. Some people are like that. I'm one of them. Let me explain. It's a wonderful story. He's got a little car already, but what arrives in his apartment, because Norman Juster was American, is a toll booth. Now, you have to imagine a toll booth as sort of like at the Channel Tunnel or on French and German and Swiss motorways. There's nobody in it, but he's let through, and his little car he takes on, and it says, this is what arrives. This package contains the following items. One, genuine turnpike toll booth to be erected according to the directions. This is very old language. Turnpike means a road, a place where you have to pay to get onto the road, and the money that's paid at the turnpike pays for the cost of the road. Three, precautionary signs to be used in a precautionary fashion. Assorted coins for use in paying tolls. One, map up to date and carefully drawn by master cartographers depicting natural and man-made features. One, book of rules and traffic regulations which may not be bent or broken. And in small letters at the bottom it concluded, results are not guaranteed, but if not perfectly satisfied, your wasted time will be refunded. And so he gets the toll booth out. He puts it up. He's clearly curious enough to do this, and he goes through the toll booth, by the toll booth, and suddenly he found himself speeding along an unfamiliar country road. And as he looked back over his shoulder, neither the toll booth nor his room nor even the house was anywhere in sight. What started as make-believe was now very real. And it takes us on a wonderful journey with lots of extraordinary people. And there's an orchestra that is made of colours. Why there wouldn't be any colour in the world unless they played it. Each instrument plays a different one. And depending, of course, on what the season is and how the weather's to be, the conductor chooses a score and directs the day. But watch, the sun has almost set. In a moment you can ask Cromer himself. So the orchestra plays the colours of the day. And he meets two people called Rhyme and Reason. Great book. Well worth checking out.
Sounds a lot of fun. Okay, I think we better wrap it up there because I think it's nearly break time. But hopefully we've got you up to speed on some of the developments in the literary world.
Yeah. We've been keeping up with some of them.
Yes, as best
I've had a Georgette Heyer Fest and an Agatha Christie Fest over lockdown.
Oh.
Yes.
Well, perhaps you can tell us more about that next week. So we shall see you next week. For one more before Easter. And then hopefully, as you were saying...
We'll be in the quad.
In the quad with more... absent friends and familiar friends. Okay, until then,
happy reading. Bye, bears.
Take care.
Bears say goodbye. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Bye.